What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Blitz City Podcast. I'm your host, Kobe Orr. This is my co-host, Clayman Carter. And, of course, Blue Bloods and Kelly Flicks. We are the FBS Friday Panel, and we're back with another episode. Guys, how y'all doing?
What's up, man?
Yo, what's the deal? Let's get to it.
Let's get to it. So, listen, the first question I want to start off with, and probably the one that I'm most intrigued with tonight, is what's the biggest what if in college football history? You know, maybe it was a blown call in a big game. I kind of think back to the national championship between Miami and Ohio State back in the early 2000s. But what's the biggest what if to you? Because I'll tell you what mine is, Blue. I know you know where I'm going with this.
Well, what if y'all figured out how to tackle Michael Dyer?
No. What if the ref got the call right and Michael Dyer was ruled down and we won the national championship? But that's
do y'all really think y'all are stop? Okay, like at that point, do y'all really think y'all are keeping Cam Newton out of the end zone?
Yes, I thoroughly believe that. I do. If we really want to be honest, he had an okay game.
Yeah, he did. He wasn't great.
I mean, he wasn't playing the best right at the bat during that game.
I'll be honest. I got an Auburn one, and then I got one that is a really good one. What if they let the best Auburn team in school history in the Natty instead of Oklahoma to get smacked by USC? Think about Reggie Bush going up against the number one defense in the country with all the NFL players on that team, and then you had Reggie Bush versus Carnell Williams and Ronnie Brown. Well, Reggie Bush and Lindell White versus Ronnie Brown and Cadillac Williams. That would have settled the debate on who was the best running back duo in the country. Those two teams should have played. Let's be honest. But the other one is, what if Alabama hires Rich Rodriguez instead of Nick Saban like they were supposed to?
Ooh. That's a good one. I didn't even think about that.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I would
say like Rich.
The ones that I had written down, one is if a guy didn't choose a different sport. And then I had a couple calls for the same one was with the Michael Dyer thing. And then I also had the call between one of the best shootouts we've probably seen in the last 5 years, which was the Clemson-Louisville game, with Lamar Jackson having an opportunity to kind of seal the deal, and then they have that kind of reverse call back onto him. And then the two main ones that I have, of course, obviously, first one's going to go with the shirt. What happens if the laptop doesn't happen? I'm saying it's another 2 national championships because we would have had the best defense that we possibly had after the national championships, after 2008. Mm-hmm. And then the main one that I was going to go with was Joe Mauer. Joe Mauer doesn't go and play baseball with the Twins. He was, as I've written down here, 2-time Gatorade Player of the Year in football. He was also a 3-sport athlete with Division I offers in every single sport. Was committed to FSU as a baseball player and football player. In high school, he had, as a quarterback, 5,500 yards and 73 touchdowns, and was drafted out of high school to go play for the Twins and is a Hall of Famer now. So what would have happened in the event he didn't pick baseball, which that was his primary sport?
Yeah, I was a big dude. Going back to USC, man, got to bring him up. So what if Pete Carroll finishes his career coaching at USC? Instead of having to leave because of probation and all the things they did wrong, right? Pete Carroll at USC was 96-19. He won 7 straight Pac-10 titles. He was running the whole West Coast. He had 2 national championships. He had 3 Heisman Trophy winners, 53 draft picks. Like, what if that could have been at USC for 20 years rather than 7 years? What could we have seen? Because after Pete Carroll, he passes the torch. Well, not pass the torch. He bounces. Then they go get Lane Kiffin, and, Lane Kiffin gets stuck at tarmac, all that stuff.
Now we look at the comment section. Walter says, what if Steve McNair won the Heisman Trophy? I actually wondered this sometimes, too. What if? Let me see. Phil Ross, what if Ohio State wasn't on probation Urban Meyer's first year?
You could expand that one and say, what if Jim Tressel doesn't have to leave?
Boom.
Due to the sanctions.
Right. He has something going.
Yeah.
All right, so next topic, right? Conference realignment teams. We all know the teams that's going to be moving on to a new conference. And it kind of leads you to think what school, even though I don't think any new school is going to be winning the conference in that first year, what school has the best opportunity to do so in that first year in their new conference?
I saw that just going through like the realignments, I would say it's a loss for losing Texas and Oklahoma, like for the historic program side of it, with the conference kind of going the way that it is. Now, them joining the SEC doesn't guarantee them very much of anything because anything can happen. I would say with Cincinnati, Houston, BYU, those teams moving in, I think with the success that Cincinnati's had recently, I would say that possibly gives them the best chance out of a lot of the other conferences, but also bringing in the fact that USC and UCLA are joining another conference too, and USC's poised for a lot of success in the future. UCLA has the opportunity to get some stuff rolling, but again, it's kind of wide open depending on what happens with other teams' programs. I mean, some people are already kind of establishing themselves, but I would say that between the two of those, I like USC. Obviously, they're rolling right now. They're going to be very successful over the next multiple years. But in the Big 12 losing those two big names, I think Cincinnati has a really strong chance to be able to try to put something together there because they've had a lot of success over the last couple of years. I mean, a playoff berth, undefeated, as a small school, like they're not even a state school. Like you're not University of Ohio, you're not University of Georgia or whatever. As a small, I guess, a subsidiary university, that's strong for them, I think.
If they still had Fickle, I'd probably be with you. It's just I don't know. I don't know if I could pick them without Fickle. And like I want to say USC, but it's also listen. I really like the kid. Was it Malachi Nelson that is probably going to be next up at USC after Caleb Williams? I think Malachi Nelson is the truth. But
he Matter Day.
Yeah. I mean,
Los Alamitos.
Yeah. That's right. It wasn't Mater Day. It was that one. Yeah. But I love his film, but it's still like the year Caleb Williams is leaving is the year they make that move, and it's just can Malachi be that guy? And also, let's be honest. Let's look at Lincoln Riley's past. He has consistently struggled with teams that its DNA is running the football and tough physical defenses. And if you take those things, the conference that solidifies that more than anything is the Big Ten. They run the football and they're going to play tough defense. And so is his offense going to translate well in that conference? Now it could go one of two ways. He could set the world on fire and catch all those teams off guard because he's got the best quarterback most of the time. But does he get caught up like he did against Baylor when he was at Oklahoma and he struggled against those defensive-minded head coaches like a Dave Aranda, et cetera? He's always struggled with those type of teams. So it's just a big thing. And then also, like Kevin said in the chat, is that November trip to possibly Michigan or Rutgers or Michigan State, how do they play in that type of environment? Because it's going to get real cold and real snowy real fast. And so it's just, I right now I'm going to say USC just because there's no other good options, but I still am kind of skeptical on how they're going to fit the DNA of that conference.
Yeah, I keep it real. Honestly, I didn't even think about USC in this conversation, but when it comes down to USC, we talk about Malachi Nelson. At the end of the day, a transfer portal is a thing, and when it's time to get guys, Lincoln Riley's a guy that's going to get some guys. So it'll be interesting to see going into that Big Ten year what the roster even looks like. But of the teams that I was looking at, I checked in at BYU with the Big 12. I thought that was a little interesting there. Quarterback situation kind of scares me a little bit because you got Keaton Slovis. But I do like the other transfer they bring in. It's a guy from junior college, Jake Retzlaff from Riverside, from my side of town. This dude threw for like 44 touchdowns, 4,400 yards. He threw to his brother who had like 1,200 yards receiving. It was crazy. But I think they have a chance in the Big 12. But who I'm most excited for this year in realignment is Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State goes to CUSA, and the CUSA Conference USA loses a couple of their best teams. North Texas and UTSA both leave the conference. You have Liberty joining the conference, but they lost their head coach, Hugh Freeze, so kind of like a headless team to me. And, right, and then you got Marshall that leads to the Sun Belt not too long ago. So their real test in there will be Middle Tennessee, and it's going to be UAB. So I really think Rich Rodriguez and what he did with the squad last year was interesting. They went 9-2 in a year that really didn't matter. But building a winning culture starts with winning, right? And he's been doing that. So I think Jacksonville State has a decent chance at winning Conference USA this year.
You know what? I was going to say USC as well, but not Kelly. You make a great point with that, bro. I really forgot about Jacksonville State moving up to the FBS. But, I have to go back to the first topic just because, seriously, what if Colt McCoy doesn't get injured in that natty versus Alabama?
That hurt me. That hurt, dude. I really thought that game was going to be like guns out, let's do it. You know, Colt McCoy was that guy. He got Shipley at receiver. It was crazy, but he goes down so early.
So early.
Coach had that on his Instagram today. He had it on say something that would get another fan base triggered, and I said that. I said if Colt McCoy was healthy, I still think they lost that game.
Now, that could be true.
All right, now Colorado. We all know about Coach Prime and his recent health complications regarding his foot. He had the 2 toes amputated, but he's still having problems with his foot. And now, just recently, you know, they said he had to get surgery for blood clots in his groin. Should Colorado be concerned about Prime's longevity as a head coach? Because they went all out. Like they came up with the money. They did everything they needed to do to get Coach Prime from Jackson State, just because they know what a heavy recruiter he is, and just all the momentum surrounding him right now. They went out their way and they did it. You know, they thought everything was good. Sales are up. Everything's going great. But this man's health continues to be a problem, unfortunately. You hope he gets better. Should Colorado be worried?
I think we already touched on this a little bit in a previous episode, talking about, you know, some of the factors that really go into it. Does he only want to coach his kids? Does he want it to just be kind of really more so focused in on them? And I think we all kind of agreed, you know, like he's not going to be a guy that we see 15, 20 years, you know, in college football. I mean, I think when we talked about it, even if he, you know, balled out at Colorado and got the FSU job as the legacy thing, we wouldn't even expect to see him very long. And also go into the NFL, like we don't even really see him doing that kind of thing. I mean,
but like even for like just for the short term, like should they be worried? Like if they can't have him on the sideline, is it the same?
Yeah. At the same time, I feel like you can't have your head coach sitting in the box. You know what I mean? You can't have him in the box. And
debatable. Hugh Freeze would say otherwise.
True.
Hugh Freeze brought a whole hospital bed into the press box and coached from a hospital bed. True, but
I feel like for your players, you definitely want the head man on the sidelines for the timeout huddles and other things. You don't want to have to sit there and listen to a headset and be repeating it to one of your coordinators or your interim or your secondary head coach or whatever. And I feel like it's going to be a short term, man. I think that Prime's out of there 2-3 years at absolute max, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even you know, I'm not even talking about his health. I came on here the last time we did this show and said I don't see him coaching past when Shador and Travis are gone. I don't think. I really do think he just wanted to finish out coaching his kids, which is cool. And then he ended up with Travis Hunter, and you know we know how close he is with him. I don't see him coaching. He's done within the next 5 years, in my opinion, regardless of health issues. He could have been fully healthy, and I don't think he would have went 5 years.
He doesn't need the money.
No,
I mean, no, not at all. He doesn't need it.
Right. And let's be honest, like college nowadays, it used to be 24/7, 365 for college football. Now it's like double hours on that too. I mean, the grind of college coaches with the transfer portal and all these recruiting periods now and dead period, like you are consistently on the road working, and you got to be different now to be a college coach. And I don't see him wanting to grind it out after everyone that he got into it for has graduated.
Yeah, I mean, I think from the start, Colorado should have known that Coach Prime is like a rental, right? He's not going to be a life. He's not going to be a Buffalo for life. That's not what Coach Prime is going to do. What is the most worrying about this is the fact that Coach Prime might be finished faster than we thought as an actual coach at the University of Colorado, given these health complications. A blood clot in your groin is something particularly to worry about. I think that Buffalo, the University of Colorado, should be working around the clock, and I'm sure they are, to ensure his health and get him back to 100%. But even trying to imagine Coach Sanders being a coach for Colorado 2 years from now is a very far thought in my mind right now. I think health-wise, he won't be coaching very long. I think it's really year to year at this point for Coach Prime, and just getting through this season is going to be a hassle, and I'll be surprised if he would be on the sidelines.
All right. Okay. But honestly, though, I don't know. I don't know which way to go with this. I'm not even the way his health is going. I'm really kind of concerned that he's not going to be on the sideline for week 1. Like I'm really concerned about this man, and I'm feeling like we're going to have another situation to where he had Jackson State his first year when he was out for those weeks, and then now you worry about how the team performs. You know, you got so much people who are buying these tickets to really see Coach Prime on the sideline. You just worry how everything's going to be affected short term. So I don't know, but prayers up to him, because you never wish to see that with anybody.
Right.
Now let's talk about an old man who consistently complains and yells. Like at this point, Nick Saban is the old man at the screen door yelling at kids having fun. Like that's like he makes another complaint about the college football playoff system. And I guess I understand it. I really don't, but I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. He is complaining, basically saying that the college football playoff system, all they do is take the teams with the most wins, not necessarily the best teams. Even I don't see how that could, okay, cool, I'll give you that. They said they're taking the teams with the most wins. And he said that he was told that Alabama was favored over 3 of the 4 teams from last year's playoffs, to which he responded, if that's the case, why weren't we in it? What do you think about his comments on the college football play? Even though it's about to change after 1 more year, what do you feel about his comments towards the playoff system?
I mean, his competitive nature, man, he's always going to be vocal, man. I mean, he has been for over a decade. He's been vocal. I mean, even in the things that are what as viewers of like his game speeches are, with when he gets interviewed on the sideline, he's up by 48, and it's like, you know what, we didn't really run the ball to our greatest thing. Our receivers are still missing routes. We have 4 incompletions that should have been for a 10 to 15 yard chunk play. Like, he's just that kind of guy, and I feel like whenever they tell him, yeah, you are favored to beat these teams with just a spread. Yeah, that's Vegas talking. Is it the Bama bias? Is it we just want to see Alabama in it because it's going to create more revenue for college football in terms of views and all the other things that kind of go into it. I think with Saban, man, I mean, he's just the summary I feel like of the question, I don't even really know how to answer it. I mean, he's competitive, man. He wants to say, why are we not there type thing. I mean, you should, if you would have done the task at hand, you would have been there kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's you're on the outside looking in for a reason. If you were supposed to be there, you would have been there. I mean, I don't know really how to answer it fully. I think a lot of the stuff that falls back on it is Bama bias, always Bama bias. Vegas loves Alabama.
Yes.
The thing is like, 2 things can be right at the same time, and he's right, but at the same time, like, he's missing the overall points, because would Bama have beaten TCU?
Yeah.
Yes. Would Bama have beat Michigan? Yeah. Absolutely. And does Kirby wish that Saban would have got a second shot to play them? He absolutely does not, because when the odds are when you give Saban a second shot, he's going to change some stuff. And that Bama-Georgia game would have been epic.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's just, and I mean, I think Bama probably beats Ohio State too. Like, at the end of the day, like, you can keep going. Like, they would have been favored over everyone but Georgia, and they still gave Georgia a better run than definitely TCU, and I think than Michigan would have. So at the end of the day, his teams are good enough there, but what does he want the playoff committee to judge on? Because at the end of the day, like, where he's wrong is you have to win your games. You lost to Tennessee, you lost to LSU. I mean, but the thing is, though, is he's looking at it as we lost to a top 10 LSU team by 1 point on the road, and we lost to a Tennessee team by 3 on the road. And it's like, okay, are we still a better team? And so I just think the committee's got to say, listen, you got to earn it. Like, we're not putting the 4 best teams in. We're putting the 4 teams that earn these spots. You just got to reword it, because he's right based on the wording. If you're just going to say the 4 best teams, then there's going to be years where the best teams aren't the 4 best teams with the best records. So he's right in that aspect, but at the same time, like, you couldn't have put Bama in the playoffs last year. You couldn't have, because it would have been a riot.
But see, that's my thing. Losses have to count for something.
Yeah,
They have to have some. There needs to be a repercussion for losing those games. I don't care. Like, if it looks better just versus the top 10 team, but you lost. Like, it needs to be a repercussion for that.
Exactly, because I mean the 14 playoff is made for champions. You know what I mean? Not made for the third place team. You got to at least win your division if you want to be able to poke your chest out and say we belong in this position. Because when it comes to what Coach Saban's saying is that it's all about wins and padding your win column. Well, let's look at your non-conference schedule, Coach Saban. Austin Peay, Utah State, University of Louisiana Monroe. Like, if we're talking about trying to stack up wins, you're playing this game too. So if we're all playing the game is the game. If we can't win it, we can't win it, but you got to take your L. So I really feel like Alabama in this situation is kind of just feeling that SEC bias. And from the outside looking in on the West Coast, we talk about this all the time. That's that SEC bias. You feel like because you play number 1 team and number 3 team, you deserve to be in the college football playoff just based on that. But, I mean, if you're going to be real about it, that's just how your conference is made up right now, right? If the Pac-12 had a number 1 and number 3 team, we'd probably feel that same type of way. But that's that SEC bias that people talk about from the outside looking in. And a lot of people feel as though that's how a lot of SEC teams look at the playoff, right? But, I mean, honestly, it isn't the case. It's only been like one second-place SEC team in the playoffs. So, you know, luckily that isn't the case. But that mindset, though, is what a lot of people push back on and what a lot of people call, like, you know, SEC bias. And that's why we don't like the SEC, so.
The problem is that second place SEC team won the national title that year, so that doesn't it even like exasperate because the 2 times because that Bama team that lost to LSU got to the national championship and they won. So it was like every time you give them a chance when you can argue they didn't deserve it, they prove that like, hey, we probably should have got this chance because I really do think like if you take Ohio State out, man, like I think if you put Bama on the other side of the bracket, we're probably what are y'all saying? Part 2, Bama, Georgia?
Yeah.
Possibly. I mean, that Bama team wasn't all the way together. That's something too. That Bama team last year wasn't all the way put together.
We talked about that in a very earlier episode, still during the season, that this Alabama team was lacking what it normally had, and they had holes that we weren't used to watching. But like Blue said again, you're talking about the Mad Hatter here. Don't give him a second chance.
Yeah.
Don't give him a second chance, man.
Don't let him in.
You're allowed to make one mistake against Nick Saban's allowed to make one mistake, but don't give him the second opportunity because he's gonna go out there with a straight vengeance. He is cold-blooded, dude. Cold-blooded.
All right. Look, speaking on the Mad Hatter, well, at least the old Mad Hatter. Let's talk
former
about
Mad Hatter.
Formerly known as the Mad Hatter.
LSU decided to vacate 37 career wins between 2012 and 2015 for Coach Les Miles in an attempt to get a lighter punishment from the NCAA. And I guess the NCAA was pleased with that. They were cool because that means with those 37 wins vacated, Coach Miles is not eligible for the College Football Hall of Fame anymore. I guess they're okay with that. We all know LSU got a slap on the wrist. Boom. What's your thoughts on this? I don't know if I like that, to be honest with you. I don't know if I like it.
2 sides of the cookie. The games were played. We saw the outcomes.
Thank you.
We had these group of men on one side of the field, these group of men on one side of the field. We had, with it being SEC schools, 50 to 80 to 90,000 people in the stadium. Everyone watched it. Everyone at home watched it. People saw what happened. Vacating the wins is a way to, like you said, let's get the slap on the wrist. Let's try to reduce the punishment. It's community service is all it is in reality. The things that it does that kind of realigns that I don't like, and even though and this is from a personal fandom thing, with those 37 vacated wins, that now moves it to where Florida is now leading the series against LSU all time, 33-30 with 1 tie. Do I like that? Absolutely not, because I watched the games. I watched us lose those games. We should not be technically winning the series all the time. I think the vacating win.
Les Miles cut that string.
He did.
Facts. He pulled the plug.
It was it's a cop out. It's the only thing that it can be really explained as. It's a cop out. It's what can I do to justify that I was doing something wrong? Oh, well, let me give up these wins, even though everybody knows what happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's stupid. I mean, we'll get into that. I think that's probably the next topic about vacating wins, but I don't even know if it's like community service. This is like you piss your wife, girlfriend off and you hit her with the sorry ... text. Like that's what the like it's not even community service. At least you got to do something for community service. Like you just hit her with the hey, my bad. My bad. I didn't mean to do that. Like that's what the equivalent of that is. But I mean, I don't think you could have put him in the College Football Hall of Fame anyway, especially with all the I don't even think it was just the what he did at Kansas too, man. Like combined with everything that happened at LSU in terms of the sexual assault with the dude in Kansas almost get like the teammate like
Yeah.
what was it? He like
Yeah.
undid his like lug nuts on his tire to try to kill a teammate and like they knew about it and tried to cover it up. It was like all kind of crazy stuff. Like you can't put him in the College Football Hall of Fame anyway. Like yes, on-field performance should mean something, but you can't be a horrible person to off the field and do all this shady stuff. Like at the end of the day, he wasn't going to get in, so I don't think the vacating wins is going to do anything. And I don't think even if he would have had those wins on his record, he would have been in the College Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, the vacating wins to me, it's kind of seemed like a trend. You know, a lot of schools are doing this to get away from NCAA violation. They just give up some wins for like 2 years that they don't really care about or something like that, and they get away from the violations. But with Les Miles, I mean, quite honestly, to me, he had his chance. I mean, he went to Kansas and like stunk it up for years. Like it was terrible. A lot of people thought that you could have brought the SEC style up to Kansas, and I mean, quickly we found out they didn't adjust well to the Big 12. And as a coach, it hurt his legacy. So even losing these LSU games, you go, well, wasn't he coaching at Kansas for like 3 years? You know, you kind of have a chance to get those wins back, and he won't. And I mean, now I don't think he's even retired. You know, I think he actually left Kansas because of those LSU allegations. So, I mean, he still has a chance to get some wins somewhere at whatever school, be a head coach, go coach D3 or something. I don't know. I just feel like, you know, you don't really have a chance anyway. You don't really have a chance anyway, to me. You know, you need more legacy building. You need more wins anyway. You need a longer coaching career, honestly, to make it into the Hall of Fame. I don't think he has it.
No. You need to just get on that Saban plan where you get hired as a analyst.
And make your way back. And
basically, every single failed coach that gets fired from a D1 program, let's get hired by Saban as an analyst.
Right.
So, continuing the topic of vacating wins, first of all, you see the question. I think vacating awards, vacating the wins, I think it needs to go. For the simple fact, Clay, you said it earlier, we saw it happen. The tape will forever be out there. You can say Reggie Bush ain't win the Heisman. I see the highlights. You feel me? Like, it's going to always be there. So, like, what's the point of it? Is this really to just satisfy you, the powers that be at the end of the day? What is this really doing? So, me personally, yes, I think vacating any wins, vacating any awards, it needs to be abolished. It does nothing at the end of the day, but what do y'all think?
I feel like we all kind of just really touched on it, man. It's a cop-out. It's stupid. It's the only thing that I feel like is in the corner of why they can do it, aside from just getting the reduction from NCAA, is, hopefully in 10 years, somebody has to go to Google and be like, oh, well, hold on. Wait, what happened in that game? Like of short-term memory. But I mean, it's same thing with Louisville. We all watched the national championship basketball game. They won it fair and square. They have a couple of things happen with Patino, and it's like, oh, we're not national champions anymore. Like, bro, we watched it on national television. I saw it in my own eyes. Like, it's point blank period is really just a cop-out excuse of a way to justify, oh, well, we'll do this so you guys aren't giving us a penalty. You know what you were doing wrong, bro. Just own up to it. Own up to it.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, coaches got fired for those losses somewhere else. Players got cut. Players, transfer. Like the effects of the losses that happened to those other teams have already been felt. So you aren't doing anything for that. Like, absolutely. We watched USC win the national championship in 2004. There's nothing you could do about it. Like it's there. I was sitting in Tiger Stadium as a freshman at Auburn watching Leonard Fournette give us 300 by himself, and I'm still waiting for the DA in Louisiana to hand down those abuse charges that he did to our defense that day. But guess what? Now, when you look it up, it's not there anymore. So I'm feeling really good today. But I watched it happen with my own eyes. I got pictures on my phone of that game. Just vacating wins is ridiculous, and I don't understand it. But I guess if it makes NCAA feel better, then that's great. All it is reflected on Wikipedia when you look up Les Miles' record now.
Bingo.
Yeah, the whole vacating wins, it's such a cop-out to me at this point. I really feel like the NCAA has to find a better way to, regulate these different teams because kind of what you're doing, you're hurting a lot of your fan experience, and you're also taking history away from a lot of these different institutions where in some places, like some schools, like even take Arizona, for instance, doesn't have too much football history. You can't take too much of that Desert Storm away in the 90s. You're taking away a lot of football history. So I do think maybe less strict probation periods, maybe something longer, right? Like a 10 or 15 year, very less strict probation period, or maybe based on, you take away 2 scholarships every year for the next 10 or 15 years, something like that ends up passing and we still see our same awards and nothing changes in the history books. It's kind of weird to change history books to me.
It kind of feels like the equivalent to getting popped by your grandma and you're like, oh, it hurt, but it's not really doing anything,
I don't know if it's a justification. Right. I don't know if it's the right way to go. I'm sorry, my nose is running. Like I said, I've been sick for like 2 days straight. I think a way to do it, and it's a way that everybody's attention gets drawn to and your ears perk up, make money involved, what you're allowed to spend on what your recruiting budget is. You need to be ripping scholarships, or you need to be banning people from the portal for a certain amount of time. So you have to make it so they have to figure it out. Make it hurt people where it really matters, because you can give them the violations. They're still going to play next season. Make it harder for them to play next season.
I like that. So now,
well, you know what, USC that kind of killed the program. That's why I kind of said 2 scholarships, because they took 30 scholarships away in 3 years for USC. And that really killed recruiting. Yeah, hey, look, it was a lot of winning involved too. Cheating, winning, kind of, synonymous, right? But even with that, though, them taking those scholarships, the depth that USC had, the next year USC came out like projected as number 1. They went 7-6. They took away 10 scholarships that year. Just the depth-wise, it kills teams. So, I mean, if you really want to stick it to them, for sure. But just give them that, but maybe not take away the Heismans and the other stuff. Yeah,
no, don't take the trophies and the awards away. I mean, if you still end up doing that, but I mean, they should take the scholarships, man. If you're trying to find if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. I hear that. Don't get me wrong. But if you're going to get caught, you got to pay the full ticket. Go to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect 200. It's got to be something. We can't just be giving up wins from 10 years prior when we're in 2023 and we're giving up 10 years ago wins from 2012 to 15. What? So what?
All right. So, Clay, my guy, you're a Florida fan. You know what these last 2 topics is before we get no direction, not no direction. So, I mean, let's do it. Let's start off with something positive first.
Oh, he's ready.
Come on.
We can just drop off now. It's just gonna be him bragging now.
We're gonna flip this one forward. Come on.
The Florida
you got the good and the bad.
Currently have the number 2 ranked recruiting class in 2024. Man, is this y'all moving in the right direction? Is this the Gators on their way to being back? Guys, let me know what you think. What does this mean for the program right now?
I'm going last.
Listen, they landed a lot of good players. I mean, listen, Jamonte Waller over there in Mississippi, that kid can ball. I've seen him play. I've done the film breakdown on him. That guy's going to be a legit edge rusher. But all this does put some pressure on Napier and that staff, because they better win. Because if we get to November and they're sitting at 3-8 or something like that, guess what? Nick Saban's going to be on the phone. Lane Kiffin's going to be on the phone. Hugh Freeze is going to be on the phone. Kirby Smart's going to be showing up in the weight room. There's going to be some calls coming to get some of these guys flipped, because they got a lot of highly rated guys. But I do got to give him credit on the other side for him to pull off what he did, where they landed it seemed like 8 top like 250 players in like a 48-hour period. I mean, it was just one after another and another. And I mean, you got to give Napier credit because he's doing this with no proof of concept. He came out last year and they were not very good. And he is still doing it with no proof of concept. So if he can put it on the field, I'll say this: if Florida goes, let's say 9-3 this year, 10-2, competes with Georgia, man, this is going to be a terrifying class come 2024. But it just puts a lot of pressure on them to finally show on the field proof of concept that he can put a team out there and win in the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I kind of almost feel like this relieves some pressure from Billy Napier because of so much scrutiny he's had. And, you know, one thing that relieves a lot of scrutiny or a lot of pressure is bringing up some 4- and 5-star players. You know, that always makes a lot of people happy, but that also comes with expectations. We'll get into that part too. But even thinking about this recruiting class, I mean, you got to think about the old Florida Gators when they used to dominate the state of Florida in recruiting, always attract the fastest players in Florida and around town. That was a different type of Florida Gator team. And really with this recruiting class, you can see kind of trends of that. I think that what Coach Billy Napier is doing right now is building a solid program. You know, like Blue was saying, they don't have a very solid foundation, honestly. Looking at that roster, it's going to take a lot of tearing down and adding a lot of things to really make this a, you know, SEC championship style roster. But even bringing a class like this, retaining these players is going to be the biggest thing. How can Coach Billy Napier develop these guys and make them starters?
Your turn, my boy.
I like what both of y'all touched on. The main thing I think for Billy Napier is coaches he's worked under in his coaching tree have said that he is a player's coach. Players believe in him. People kind of flock to him. He has the right model, I think, in terms of how the first things that he did when he got there was he installed what was missing for a little bit under Mullen, which is culture. Everything is different. If you look at our social media with where our weekly postings in terms of what we're doing off the field, on the field, how he's choosing to go about hiring, he doubled our staff with Alabama, Florida, Ohio State, Georgia, and I think maybe USC have the most staff members in terms of coaches, recruiting guys, nutritionists, the entire things. What I think is really benefiting for him is we just built $100 million facility. No one else has built one as big as ours. It's a pretty big deal because we haven't had one in God knows how long. Do I think that every single person in the class sticks? No, because it's college football. No one's class sticks. Do I think that he's doing a lot of things right? Yes. Does he have no proof of concept like Blue said? No, he really doesn't. He's showing everybody what he did at his previous job of how he could come in, he could win, he could develop guys, and then he's in another thing now. Do I think that we do have a tough schedule next year? Yeah. Getting Mullen's guys out of there, it should be the point of emphasis right now. A lot of those guys gave up. A lot of those guys were checked out right when Mullen got fired because a lot of them didn't play. And a lot of those guys were hit or miss anyway. I mean, he was taking a lot of projects. Mullen was a project guy. He was always cool with, I'm going to take this guy who he really shouldn't be playing tight end, but we're going to play him at tight end anyway because we kind of lack that depth. And he has the potential because he's 6'5", 240, and he runs X40. I do like what he's doing, and I think that going forward, if we do have a competitive season, obviously it's going to be tough for us probably to finish over 500. It probably is. Just a strict reality of it. I'm not going to be biased and say that, don't matter, go Gators. We're going 9-3 regardless. We're still going to get a bowl game. It's going to be a very competitive year next year. We have a really tough schedule. I mean, a very tough schedule next year. I want to see how it plays out. I think once you give him past year one, let him start molding, I think that the future is definitely going to be something that we haven't had the ability to look forward to with our previous coaches since Urban.
All right, so let's talk about the schedule then, since you were bringing that up.
That's the good part.
Listen to this schedule. Miami, week 1. UCF, week 2.
We shouldn't be playing Miami week 1.
That's 2020. That's 2024.
The 2024 schedule. That's
Utah. Utah in Utah.
Yeah, that's the
road
game
schedule
this
to
year.
me.
We're playing Utah in Utah because we played them home week 1.
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah, so he's talking about the 2024 schedule.
Yeah.
That you guys have.
Oh, okay. So not
so like the 2024 schedule, your 24 classes in, right?
Okay.
Miami, UCF, Florida State. You get an easy one at Stanford. Of course, I give y'all that. Then you got Kentucky, LSU, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, and you capped that off in Mississippi State. Where do you see y'all at the end of that schedule?
Man, I'll be honest with you. Whenever I was looking at our topics, I was like, okay, he's talking about next year because we have a tough schedule next year. I don't know too much for like foreseeable future with how it's going to play out for what happens after next year. I mean, what happens if Etienne goes out there and snaps his ACL and I lose him for a year? What happens if I don't have how my quarterback when DJ Lagway comes into how his progression ends up being? What if he comes in and absolutely balls the hell out? I mean, there's so many kind of like what if for a post year from now. Do I think that when it comes to rivalry games, I don't care what the rankings are. I don't care what the spread is. I never have and I never will. I think Blue can say the same exact thing. You can be unranked playing your number one rival, and they could be the number one team in the country. Don't matter. It's a rivalry game. And aside from whatever backlash this next quote's going to get, dog, it's the SEC. It could be home or away. It don't matter the rankings. It don't matter what the spread is. It does not matter. It truly does not matter. It really does not matter. Blue, you have to agree with me. You have to agree with me. It does not matter. It really doesn't. You can be it could be number one team in the country, regardless of who it is. And if you're playing at home and it's a rivalry game, come on, man. No one wants to go to LSU when they play neck. You don't want to come. You don't want to go to Knoxville when they're almost 100,000 deep. There's a lot of schools that there's certain things that it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. It's all about the environment. One play could change the entire atmosphere.
Okay. All right.
Well, look, man, this 2024 schedule, though, I like it. I think when Florida's doing with their schedule, they're pretty progressive. They're bringing back the Battle of Florida. A lot of things that we saw, like in the 2010s, between Miami, Florida State, University of Florida, where they're just going at it throughout the season. I like that. Seeing Miami on the schedule and UCF at the same time intrigues me. You know what I mean? But I do feel like you guys, 2 straight years, 2023 this year and next year, both schedules are going to be among the toughest schedules in the nation. So honestly, this recruiting class is needed.
We should be playing Miami every single year. There's no reason why we shouldn't be.
I'd like to see that. That's what it used to be. Even the Florida State game, the way it moves around your schedule, you guys make sure it happens. This year it's going to happen at the end of the year. 2024 happens like game 5. You guys make it happen every year.
Yeah.
All right. So
hold on. I don't want to hear Blue.
It's a good schedule. But it's 2024. So man, is Napier even going to be there? At that point, is Gus still going to be at Central Florida? Is Christian Ball still going to be in Miami? Right. And those are all valid questions. There's a lot of teams on that schedule in the SEC that there's some. Could we see some coaching changes? Yeah, I think we could. So we'll see. It looks like a really great schedule. I'm glad that they went all out. Listen, Napier's not scared of competition. He showed at Louisiana Lafayette that he wasn't scared. He went up there and beat Iowa State week 1 as a top 20 team. He is, every game's a winnable game for him. And like you said, you can get caught any week, man. Listen, you thought Georgia going into Missouri was going to get caught last year, almost get caught slipping. So it could happen, but I'm glad that it's a nice change in narrative from the SEC doesn't play anyone, because we already know there's going to be some teams that are playing, a horrible out of conference schedule with this new shift coming.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, guys. You know what time it is. The end of the show, man. It's overreaction, not overreaction. These overreaction, not overreaction topics are taken from many different places across social media and the internet. Like I said,
sponsored by On3 Sports.
With these topics.
No, this next segment is sponsored by On3.
Not tonight though. This ain't even from On3 tonight. This is from Twitter, CBS 24/7, maybe one from On3, but not tonight. Usually it is. I think these people are on drugs, but I kind of want to see what y'all got to say. All right, overreaction, not overreaction. We started off. 2 Power 5 programs from Florida will play for a conference title this season.
Over? Definitely an
Overreaction.
Who's the 2? Florida State
I'm right
definitely.
here,
Yeah, Florida State definitely can, but outside of Florida State, no chance.
So you must be talking
No
about
way.
FIU.
Look. FIU's not winning Conference USA. FAU's not winning the Sun Belt.
Well, they
UCF's
said
not
Power
winning the Big
5,
12.
so you don't even have to include them. So the
like
only
4
Power,
schools,
the
right?
only Power
cool.
5 programs are Miami, Florida State, Florida, and now UCF.
Yeah. Ain't no way.
No.
Ain't no way.
All right.
Clemson's running away with the ACC.
Whoa, easy. Florida State definitely could be there.
I don't know.
I think
Slow down with your hate, bro.
Too good.
I think this is it. I think this is. We talked about this earlier. I think that this is the year with what the defense production could definitely be, and if they get a full year of Club Nick kind of getting developed a little bit better, I think Clemson's going to show that y'all saw a down year out of us, but we're gonna be competitive again.
Okay. All right. Overreaction, not an overreaction. No SEC team is leaving next season undefeated.
Okay, no, that's not an overreaction.
Not an
Georgia, have you
overreaction.
seen Georgia's
Really?
schedule?
Yeah.
Man, we
Look
talked
at
about
Georgia's
that already.
schedule.
Georgia is playing Bluffton High 4 times next year.
That's
dog.
what I'm like, dude. They got
Right.
IMG and Blinn Junior College and Oregon's practice squad team. Like, come
Dude,
on.
they're playing
Nah,
Savannah
Blinn.
State Catholic Women's School next year.
Hang
They're
on,
going to beat them by 90.
hang on. Just for you, Kobe. I'm gonna pull up their schedule real quick because you're gonna feel bad for even asking like, listen, bro, this is ridiculous. Okay, so they open up the season with UT Martin.
70.
Ooh.
That's a win. I'm
70.
assuming.
That's a win. That's a win.
Okay, the week 2 is Ball State.
60.
Okay. Oh God, that's horrible.
South Carolina has to come to Athens in week 3.
30.
That's a win.
I can't. I think they're gonna get upset somewhere.
Beamer Ball? You're going Beamer Ball week 3
I'm
in Athens, Kobe?
Hey, bold take
Come
right now. I'm
on,
going
man.
Beamer Ball. I don't care. I'm going Beamer Ball.
Their other out of conference
Spencer
game.
Rattler.
Their other out of conference game is UAB, and then the road game against Georgia Tech.
Oh God.
Watch out for Coach Trent Dilfer.
Trent ain't
Hey,
got
man, I'll
enough
give it to him. You got to
record.
think, hey, listen, these boys haven't lost in 2 years, man. You gotta salute them, dude. You gotta salute them. I'll give it to
And they finally got a okay, listen, no offense to Stetson Bennett. He was a great quarterback. They have a real quarterback this season with all that talent coming back.
Talk about Dylan.
No, Dylan's 2024. It's
Carson Beck.
Carson
Beck?
Beck.
But
Carson
we
Beck.
also haven't
okay.
seen Carson Beck really do anything, man.
Stetson Bennett, they pulled him from the stands. I swear to God, he wasn't a real walk-on. They pulled him from the stands against Arkansas, and he went and won 2 natties.
Listen, I'm the same way with you, Kobe. I mean, with Blue. Listen, they've had the amount of quarterback talent they've had come in, and the way, bro. Listen, go through their roster right now, Kobe. They have Carson Beck. You got Gunnar Stockton. They still have Brock Vandegrift. That is 2 5-stars, and Carson Beck was a almost 5-star coming out of Mandarin High School in Jacksonville, Florida. Now you have Dylan, who is they just moved his family. Now he's playing at Buford in Georgia, so he can play better competition. Bro, you can only play one quarterback unless you want to go with the 2-quarterback system. We have to see what Carson Beck's going to do. But regardless, even if Carson Beck goes out there and plays an absolute medium season, they're still winning a minimum of 10 games. A minimum.
Their
Yeah,
defense-
but I do think they're gonna lose one thing. I don't know who. I don't know, man.
I don't know about
maybe
at
that's
home,
a hot
though.
take or not.
At home, I would have a tough time picking them to lose at home in Athens.
Dude, their first home opener against a Power 5 school after winning back-to-back national championships undefeated. I don't want to be there. I'm glad we played.
It's gonna be a big one.
Overreaction, not an overreaction. Appalachian State finishes the season ranked top 10. I swear to God,
Top 10.
I did
Top
not.
10.
I promise y'all.
Are they
Top 20?
preseason? Top 25?
Top 20. They might be top 25 preseason right now. They might actually be.
Hang on. This is going to determine it because we have seen Group of 5 teams do this. What is their? I'm about to pull up their schedule because that's
Look,
they have.
While you do that, Blue,
Right.
what their preseason ranking is.
Right, because I'm trying to figure out what their road is to get to top 10. Like,
Okay,
just winning,
so-
being undefeated is enough. Yeah.
Okay, so week 1 they play Gardner Webb. Not going to help them there.
Oh,
That's an
God.
FCS team. But
Right.
they do play on the road at North Carolina, who is probably going to be a top 15 to top 10 team
Okay.
with Drake May.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
a win there would be huge. They got
Yep.
East Carolina, which is their rivalry game. They're always going to play that game. They travel to Wyoming, travel to Louisiana Monroe, got Coastal at home, Old Dominion on the road, Southern Miss, Marshall at home, Georgia State on the road, James Madison on the road, and they finished with Georgia Southern.
This ain't happening.
No, they only got one P5 game, so I
no.
think that's a wrap.
Yeah, no. What are they ranked? What is their preseason ranking right now? Are they top 25?
I don't think so.
No, because they finished
tough.
last season 5-7, something like that.
And what was their big upset last year? Tennessee?
I know they had a Hail Mary win versus Troy at home.
No, they beat Texas A&M.
Oh yeah, that's right. They
Oh
beat
yeah,
A&M.
they sure did.
I don't think they're ranked right now, so they'd have to come from unranked to get to top 10.
Yeah, that ain't happening.
Ooh.
Like I said, man, I did not come up with that. Overreaction, not overreaction. UTSA is the best college football team in Texas currently.
Jesus Christ.
All right, man. Listen, when you
Yo.
said drugs,
It's been a good show,
you said
guys.
drugs, Kobe. You
That's
could've
crazy,
just
man.
clarified
Hey,
that crack cocaine.
salute to TCU and what they did last year. You know what I'm saying? But that's
Baylor, who won the Big 12 2 seasons ago. Texas, who just landed one of the best classes in the country. Good God.
That's crazy.
I would say UTSA is probably not even better than SMU.
Not Southern Methodist.
They're not better than Houston.
Come on, guys. Come on, let's give them some credit.
Listen. I would take
tough.
if you gave me All-Star Weekend for the NBA in Houston, and you give me 53 guys out of the strip club.
No.
I would take that.
So they were 11-3 last year with a loss to Houston. So how do you lose to Houston and claim you're the best team in the state of Texas? They lost. Hang on, timeout. They lost to Houston and Texas last season, and they're claiming to be the best team in Texas.
This is the UCF. This is the UCF syndrome right here.
They lost to Texas without Quinn Ewers. It was the week after Texas lost all those players to Bama, and they beat them hurt.
The fan base was on a live 24/7 sports show, and they were adamant on this. Like they felt like they were the best team in Texas. But all right, overreaction. We got two more. If
I do like their quarterback
the Heisman,
yeah,
it proves that Auburn cannot produce or develop quarterbacks.
Man,
go ahead, Blue.
It proves Gus Malzahn can't develop quarterbacks. Like I think we all agree on that one. But I think with Hugh Freeze at Auburn, we probably need to hold off on the generalization. We'll see how because Hugh Freeze took Malik Willis from Auburn and turned him into a draft pick. So I just think, you look at Auburn's in the 2000s. Auburn has a number 1 pick at quarterback in Cam Newton, another first rounder in Jason Campbell. So a little jump. Jared Stidham's still in the league.
True.
Came from Auburn, played multiple years there. So I don't know about that, but listen, if Bo Nix wins the Heisman and makes the playoff, it proves Gus Malzahn is the worst offensive genius in college football, which I'm on that train already.
I feel like the offensive genius is self-proclaimed.
No, there were people saying
for him, I feel like it's like the same thing for Gus Malzahn being like a offensive genius is like you telling everybody your nickname and you're the only person that came up with your nickname.
Well, he lived off of Cam Newton for how long?
A long time.
And then on top of that, it didn't help that his first season, Nick Marshall went from defensive back to almost a national championship quarterback. And then on top of that, in 2014, if you remember, after Nick Marshall led Auburn to the Natty, he threw for the most passing yards against Alabama in school history. He threw for almost damn near 600 yards against Bama in a loss in Bryant-Denny the next year. who was he was, and now he's in the CFL playing cornerback again.
Yeah.
So
Right.
he kind of proved it with that, but like he never could develop. If you think transfer quarterback in Newton, transfer defensive back from Nick Marshall from Georgia, and then transfer quarterback from Stidham. All three of his best quarterbacks have been transfers. And you look at UCF, the best quarterback he's had is John Rice Plumlee, who is a transfer from Ole Miss. He's never been able to recruit a true freshman and turn them into something. So it's an indictment on him recruiting true freshmen and developing them, because he couldn't do it with Willis, didn't do it with Nix, couldn't do it with Joey Gatewood, who was a borderline 5-star quarterback coming out of Florida. He couldn't. He hasn't done it at UCF. Dylan Gabriel was there for his first year, and I'm not giving him credit. Josh Heupel helped develop him, and I think Heupel is a much better quarterback developer than Gus Malzahn right now. When you given what he did with Hendon Hooker.
Yeah. I mean, getting him to transfer over and come out with a whole new scheme, everything. I mean, that's impressive, is what that is.
Right. Yeah, I think kind of just what you're saying, but I think Malzahn may be more of a scheme guy. He's not really a personnel guy, because I mean, really, what his spread sets did was really push a lot of inside zone, find ways to get H-backs into the backfield, still in the shotgun set. So what he was doing was a lot of innovative stuff with Michael Dyer and Cam Newton, but it wasn't necessarily based on development of personnel. It was kind of just, let me find the guys that can run these plays for me, and not necessarily recruit them as freshmen and build them up. So yeah, it kind of is an indictment on Malzahn. I kind of wouldn't put that on Auburn. I think Auburn actually has a couple good quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Last one, specifically for somebody. I just want to say how you're going to react to this. Overreaction, not overreaction. UCF makes the playoffs, Wednesday playoff game before Florida.
I'm done with y'all, dog. You might as well label this episode FBS Clay Day.
Clay,
man, come on, man. Man, listen,
but but we do got to be real about this, though.
I gotta watch people drive around with license plate tags and stickers and banners in their yard that says national champions when they didn't even play in the game.
About that.
They didn't play in the game.
And the best part is because of Gus Malzahn.
In my life. And we're talking about UCF. Listen, and no discredit to UCF. My stepmom played soccer at UCF. I got respect for UCF. Don't get me wrong. But, and come on, man. Come on.
It's Gus Malzahn's fault, and now he coaches there. He's the reason you have to look at those license plates, and he might be the reason you got to look at another one. Think about that. Gus Malzahn is like your villain in your life right now.
No, the villain in my life is the guy we already talked about earlier. It's Les Miles. In one game that I watched, this man called not one, not two fake field goals that were conversions. He also called a fake punt, also conversion. One game.
Was that the Brad Wing?
Brad Wing.
Yeah.
Brad Wing in LSU. This man called 3 fake special teams plays.
The flip.
Every single one of them conversions.
Is that the one where he got called on the unsportsmanlike too for looking back at y'all and being super disrespectful?
Oh, you're talking about when Odell picked him up?
Yeah.
And then he turned around running back and he was getting crazy? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This man, 3 special teams plays, every single one of a conversion, one of them for a touchdown. In LSU.
He scored for sure.
And then what happened? Trombone started riding out, next playing. I'm pissed off.
And LSU fans want to fight too. It's dangerous down there when they're piped up.
Oh, LSU is the equivalent to going to an Oakland Raiders game. You may or may not get stabbed.
I kind of understand now. Now I understand what you're saying. Now you speaking my language. But what I was saying about being realistic is the 12-team playoff is coming. So this could really happen next year. You guys could kind of be asked out.
Now that's true.
So, I mean, we got to be real about this too. If this does happen, it's not crazy. With the 12-team, we're going to see a lot of different type of teams get in. Marshall could have got in last year. It was a 12-team, so we got to be realistic.
Clay, I swear to God, I saw a UCF fan say this, and I was like, bro, I'm putting this on.
UCF makes the playoffs and win the playoff game before Florida. I promise to you, I ain't never watching football again in my whole life. And this is going to be on YouTube. This will be on YouTube. I'll never watch football again in my life. I'm going to start making a podcast about knitting. I'm going to start sewing on national television.
Hey, there y'all have it, man. That is another episode of FBS Fridays in the books. Thank y'all so much for watching, man. Guys, y'all got anything coming up that y'all want to put out there?
I had this one written down, and this is going to throw a curveball and everything. This one was written down beginning of the week when I asked for the topics in the group chat. For the viewers, when is the FBS Fridays panel meeting up to do a in-person, all four of us sitting down podcast?
That's actually lit, though.
Well,
'Cause we
since
got
Kelly
Kelly on the
lives in,
West Coast.
Kelly on the
Kelly
West
lives in
Coast, he can
California,
get
so it's
down.
kind of up to us to get out
But
in
listen,
California.
We could always
Hey,
meet up.
and-
Find tickets, same travel distance. We meet up in the middle of the country. We can meet up in
It
like
takes a little
State game.
coordination.
It could be Texas. It could be somewhere in the middle of the country. It don't matter. But I say we do it one time for a Friday. We all fly in, and then we do a Friday somewhere, and go ahead and do an FBS Friday with all four panels and one camera.
That actually sounds
I'm
lit.
with it.
To you.
Let's make it happen. We'll make it happen.
All right.
Clay
Viewers see
said
it
he wants to
live,
go to
it's happening.
Nebraska.
We'll be in South Dakota in 3 weeks, fellas.
I'll be there week 2. If y'all want to meet in Brookings, South Dakota, that's where I'll be.
Bring
Hey,
7
thank y'all
coats.
so much for watching, man.